opening up a lot of that side wall.
It is a testing situation.
It's kind of, yeah, there, well, he kind of showed some drawings this morning. They're doing like a patio over there.
Oh,
No looking at drawings,
Like,
Bill.
she showed them to us.
so,
Yeah, those are access to like a deck or patio.
okay.
I won't say a word about it.
Bill, would you like a water?
Um,
We are ready when you.
Right, good evening and welcome to the October 9th, 2025 BAR small meeting. My name is Becky Fenno and I will be sitting in for our chairwoman, Ms. Van Slambrook, who couldn't be here tonight. So bear with me. My fellow board members present are Fillmore Wilson, Bill Turner, and Daryl Cobb. The city staff present are Frankie Pinto, Rachel Four.
Travis is not with us today.
What?
Travis is not here.
And okay. And the order of tonight's meeting will be as follows. Staff will provide an introduction, and overview of each application for the board's and public's benefit. Following will be a presentation by the applicant. The applicant and his or her team will be allotted 10 minutes in which to present the project. By ordinance, the board may ask questions of the applicant anytime during the meeting. By custom, we generally do so at the heels of the applicant's presentation. This will be followed by public comment period. Any written comments have been furnished to the board members prior to the meeting. If you are speaking as a member of the public, please do so at the podium. State your first and last name for the record. And if you're a neighbor, please state your address as well. Public comments will be followed by the city's staff comments and recommendations. And once we've heard from the staff and the public, the applicant will have a 5-minute rebuttal period. After hearing any response from the applicant, we will then go into board discussion. Board discussion will conclude with a vote, and all meeting results will be posted online. There are 2 items that have been deferred. Item A1, the meeting minutes, has been deferred, and item B9, 158 Spring Street has been deferred. So those will not be heard this evening. As a reminder, we are an architectural review board, so please limit your comments to architecture only. We do not have any purview over zoning issues such as lot size, density, number of dwelling units, land use, drainage, or livability. Our first project is item B9, 2315 Mount Pleasant Street. And Frankie will give us an introduction to the project.
It's 2315 Mount Pleasant Street is in Wagner Terrace, which is Council District 6. It is a category 4, circa 1940 in the historic materials demolition purview. They're requesting approval for partial demolition of exterior elements which are visible from the public right of way. This is the property's location on Mount Pleasant Street. And I'm going to turn it over to the applicant. Please. There is a clicker up on the podium. If you want to use it yourself, you aim it at Rachel's computer. If you have any issues, just let Rachel know and she'll slide through for you.
Hey everyone, my name is Kyle O'Keefe and I'm one of the owners of 2315 Mount Pleasant Street. And I actually live next door to it, so I have a lot of interest in making sure this is done correctly. What we are looking to do is, if you start off from the front, the existing vinyl siding we want to remove and put on wood lap siding. The non-historic iron railings on there we want to remove and put on wood columns and a wood railing and wood picket. That is the front facing of the home. The west side right here, the first 2 windows will stay in its location. The next 3 we wanted to remove and put 2 new windows, slightly in a different location, but on the same side of the home. 2 of the windows there right now, existing are vinyl windows. Keep going here. If you look at the bottom picture, the plan for the back here is to infill the existing back porch. And then from there, we will be doing an addition off the side. Here is the elevations of how it would look, existing, and then new elevations here.
That's showing your demo elevations because the board can't look at the proposed, I spoke to your architect already.
Alright,
So the red is showing the areas that you're demoing because that's all the board has purview of.
okay. Got it.
It's all good.
And that is it. Does anyone have any questions?
No, sir.
Do any board members have questions for the applicant?
No.
Do we have anybody speaking from the public?
Leonard Ignore Preservation Society of Charleston. The POC appreciated the applicant's time on site this morning. While we are not opposed to the removal of non-original vinyl windows, the existing historic wood windows should be repaired in kind. And we encourage minimizing the proposed demolition and fenestration changes to the greatest extent possible. Additionally, iron columns are a character-defining feature of the Wagner Terrace neighborhood area character appraisal and are specifically called out there. So we encourage the board to evaluate these features. Thank you.
Any other comments? Frankie, please give us staff comments and recommendations.
So staff had some observations. The request is a removal of front porch columns and railing, rear steps, some side fenestration, adding additional openings in the side wall to match the proportion of existing window openings, and a portion of rear wall. Windows are character defining features and should be retained. Staff is not opposed to the openings in the wall as they are matching existing window proportions. And the rear of the structure is minimally visible, only from Riverside Drive. Staff condition for approval, windows are character defining and should be retained. And then staff recommendation is approval with board and staff conditions, and the 30-day waiting period for demos, the appeal period.
Thank you, Frankie. Would the applicant like to address any of the comments made by staff or the public? We will now go into board discussion in a bit.
I don't have any issue with the removal of the front metal porch columns. My reason being is their columns themselves, they read very underscaled for the weight of the turn cornices above. So, I mean, I kind of believe they might be a later addition. I don't really have any issue with that. No issues on the rear elevation, also including the infill of the porch. The porch, with it being cut into the body of the house, is really not much of a character defining feature. So I'm comfortable with the infill of that. That's kind of it for me.
I didn't have anything to add. I agree with the columns, but
I don't have an issue with the modifications to the front. I think I'm okay with the rear because it's probably minimally visible. I think that cutting is probably original to the but it's probably minimally visible except for the little bit at the back. There's pretty substantial modifications to the windows on the east and west side. I think the window openings need to remain. I don't have any issue with replacing vinyl windows with structurally appropriate windows in the same openings. So I would prefer to see the window locations, the fenestration locations stay the same.
I didn't have a big, it didn't bother me with the windows moving, but you're being very consistent with what the board normally approves.
Is
Okay.
Unless
I
you
wasn't-
have something to add, Becky. Did you have something to add? I don't want you to get distracted with just the chair duty.
yeah.
No. Oh,
The are you opposed to all of the window additions or deletions, or just some?
Seems pretty heavy-handed.
I mean, not on the rear, I don't have
Right.
that one is visible, but sides that are pretty visible in their pattern is. The patterns are consistent.
I don't have a particular problem with the addition of turning that one window on the right elevation into a ganged window, since there's a ganged window next to it. I could agree with the rest of those that you're talking about. Cool.
Okay.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure, make a motion.
I would make a motion for approval. Apart from the window modifications, with the exception of, let me get this right. The one additional window on the west elevation towards the rear of the house.
So we have a motion on the floor by Bill. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in fact,
Bill,
Yeah.
Darryl,
Yeah, in favor.
and the board, the chair votes with the majority. And the motion passes.
If I can repeat part of the motion to make sure I have it typed correctly, Bill. It was approval of demolition apart from the window modifications. Except for the rearmost window on the west elevation.
Yes,
That's what I have.
the addition of that.
Next
Okay,
item.
thank you. Our next item is item B2 to Riverside Drive.
2 Riverside Drive is in Wagner Terrace, Council District 6. It is not surveyed circa 1948 in the historic materials demolition purview. Also requesting approval for partial demolition of elements visible from the public right of way. This is the property's location on Riverside Drive. And I turn it over to the applicant.
Yes, good afternoon. Just appreciate the board members that attended this meeting this morning. I think that was very, very helpful. I know it's a big burden to have to go to all these properties. It shows quite a commitment. This should be pretty straightforward. This is the property. This is the front elevation. There's no work being done on this elevation, which faces San Souci Street. This is Riverside. And there's some slight modifications on the back, but those are, I don't think they're visible from the public right away. Minimally visible from those. So we're really talking about 3 different things here, 4 really. A porch, reworking this porch, making something more, a little bit more expansive, so they can have a little bench out here. Right now, it's just a stair. To my eye, and I think some of the board members agree this morning, this is a non-original addition to the property. You can tell by the way the eaves don't align, and the original eave runs right behind there. So that's one sort of change. We're also changing it to, intend to change it to a hip roof rather than this gable. But I know we're not supposed to talk too much about the proposal for the new concept. Removal of this front door. We couldn't assess whether that was original to the structure or added later. We know there were some changes done in 2018, which I think likely included this porch addition, but we just don't know about this front door. This is a non-original aluminum door. Intention is to remove that and brick in this space. The concept right now is that the kitchen's in the back of the space. Is very difficult it doesn't work. The laundry, there's a laundry closet, and so we're trying to bring the kitchen into this space, create sort of a little sunroom here that opens into a very nice backyard. But right now, for them to get to their backyard, they have to come out the front door and around the or out the back of the property. So it's really an inconvenience and doesn't allow the owner to fully utilize the property. In any case, so this aluminum door, which is pretty well mangled in any case, and this aluminum door here, also a little bit of brick over here. So when we create a new opening there, it'll be in line with the windows. And then a couple openings here, which will also be in line with the windows. This we also suspect is but minimally visible, but should be very nice little sunroom here and allow the house to be much more livable. Originally, when the owner approached me about the property, there was conversations about adding a second story. After going around and around, we determined to keep all of the modifications basically inside the building footprint. So it should be a very beautiful home and very livable when it's complete. But none of this changes out here. We're keeping all the original windows out there and doing some restoration around it to maintain the property as best we can.
Thank you. Do any board members have questions for the applicant?
No.
Is anybody speaking from the public? Frankie, would you give us staff comments and recommendations?
Staff had some observations, that this is requesting removal of an entry porch, garage door, and portions of the roof. The front entry portico is not original to the structures we talked about this morning. The garage will appear to staff to be a later addition, but age is currently unknown. Staff is not opposed to alteration of, not opposed to alterations at the garage addition, as we believe this to be a later portion of the structure. Though we're unsure how the proposed demolition will interact with the eaves and soffit. Staff recommendation is approval for demolition of garage addition portion of structure and the front portico.
Thank you, Frankie. Would the applicant like to address anything?
Yeah, just to very quickly to address the comments about the eave and soffit. The eaves and the over construction that we're going to put for the new porch will tie in properly with the soffit. So it'll look as if it was it looked like it's original, but it'll be cohesive with the original design. That's the only modification other than in the back, which again will maintain the proper eave and soffit detailing.
We just weren't sure based on the way it was indicated on the drawing, so we wanted to.
Yeah, well, we can close that in the details. Yes. I'll agree with that.
Thank you. The applicant presentation and public comment period is now closed. We will now go into board discussion and a vote.
Except for the confirm that little pediment is modern. So
It definitely is.
It really doesn't align with the rest of the eve, and it is just a couple of rows of brick above the garage door and a garage door, and then a more modern bit of infill and the real demolition, which is on the north elevation. I think it's to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking on in Google Earth is, that picture away all the vegetation, it would be visible, but it's certainly, it's that one window. I don't have any objection.
We have so many where they do additions and they don't quite add up. They don't look right. And this is working well with what they have, in my opinion. So I don't have any objections.
And on the north elevation, there's the drawings indicate there's no demolition at the eve.
Mhm.
So I don't have any objection.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve it as submitted. Preliminary and final by staff.
We have a motion on the floor by Daryl. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Bill. Let's put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yay in favor.
Daryl,
Yea in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority. And the motion passes 4-0. Our next item. Our next item is item 3, 933 Ashley Avenue.
Nine thirty-three Ashley Avenue is in Wagner Terrace, Council District 6. It is a category 4, circa 1940 in historic materials demolition purview. They are also requesting approval of partial demolition of exterior elements that are visible from the public right of way. And this is the location on Ashley. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hello, I'm Ross Ritchie with Loyal Architects. Thank you for your time this morning at that wet, rainy site visit. We are requesting demolition of this shed structure. Originally a garage structure that had been modified into a shed structure, kind of framing had been added over time. And as you all saw, a lot of deterioration on the exterior and inside, large hole in the roof that constant deterioration. And it's located below flood, and as kind of seen, it has a lot of deterioration on that bottom level of the structure and the siding. And yeah, to do anything, what they want to do, would take lifting it, and there's really nothing to lift at that point. And with the structural engineer stating it's not safe nor salvageable, we think there is some structure, some pieces that we could probably glean from the demolition, but it is in some rough shape. It's not one to go in it much, but there's a kind of a floor in there, whether it's concrete and some gravelish, and then there's like a CMU block, that little curb, and then framing had been added to that, and that's all heavily deteriorated. But yeah, that's where we are. There's a photos of it, but it's not there this morning. And the structural letter. I think that is it. It's a lot of just 2x4 framing and a lot of rotten framing. If there's any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have questions for the applicant? Is there anybody speaking for the public? So Frankie, if you give us the staff recommendations.
The staff just had the observation again. Garage is not original to the structure. The garages do speak to the vehicular history of the peninsula. Staff appreciate the thorough submittal from the applicant, and staff recommendation, staff is just not opposed to the demolition.
Thank you, Frankie. Would the applicant like to respond to the comments?
Thank you.
The applicant presentation and public comment period is now closed. We will go into board discussion and a vote.
In looking at the condition of it this morning with the amount of framing damage inside and the roof framing being just 2x4s, and it doesn't read as a significant building. So I question if it warrants preservation. So I'm fine with it.
Since I couldn't attend the site visit, I will forward for sure.
I'd agree. The only thing you could possibly save was the siding.
Yeah.
Everything else is bad, so I have no problem with demolition.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval as submitted.
I have a motion by Bill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Darrell?
Yeah, in favor.
And the chair votes in favor, and the motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Darrell, you made the motion? Bill, got it backwards. I had it backwards. My apologies.
Our next item is item B, 101 Gordon Street.
101 Gordon Street is in Wagner Terrace, which is Council District 6. It has a category 4, circa 1950, in the historic materials demolition purview. Requesting after the fact approval for demolition of a rear accessory structure. This is the property's location on Gordon Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
I'm Jason Reese, I'm the builder for 101 Gordon. We had received approval to build an accessory structure in place of this structure, and with that approval, made the wrong assumption that allowed for demolition of the structure. The structure is a center block building with the roof was caving in. It's not original to the property. These are the photos that we fortunately had before the structure was built, but the roof inside was termite damage to the point that it was caving in. Center block, the inside was center block, and it was on a slab. And the intent was not to violate any BAR. We just didn't realize that it was under that purview. I've built a lot of houses, but I've never torn anything down downtown because we always keep and renovate what we can because you don't want to tear things down. So it was an oversight on our part, but we're asking for approval at this point, and it would allow for us to build the approved structure.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Is anyone speaking on from the public?
Planning Community Preservation Society of Charleston. After the fact requests are always unfortunate, and we take requests for demolition of accessory buildings and Wagner Terrace very seriously, given their significance to the developmental history and streetscape patterns of the neighborhood. This building footprint appeared on the 1951 Sanborn map, and while the photos provided indicate there may have been alterations over time, we don't have the ability to definitively evaluate that at this time. We encourage the board to consider this request as though the building was still present, using available tools to evaluate its significance to the history of this property. Thank you.
Kate Catilli, Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF does not support after the fact approval for demolition. Had we been given the opportunity to review the proposal prior to demolition, we could have offered additional feedback or concerns.
Thank you. Frankie, could you give us the board comments?
Yes, ma'am. Staff just has observations, more dates. The permit for a new accessory structure was approved, 5/20 this year. As new construction is not under BAR purview. The scope of the permit was to build a pool house accessory structure on the existing slab, and the site plan showed an existing slab. As the applicant stated, they did not receive approval for demolition of a rear accessory structure. And the previous structure did follow the development pattern of the street. Staff is never supportive of demolition after the fact, so staff recommendation would be denial of after the fact.
Would the applicant like to address any of the comments made?
As far as the denial of the after demolition, what does that entail? Or what would that cause us?
If the board denies after the fact, it would be a reconstruction of the previous structure.
Yeah.
But it's up to them to review what you've provided and make that determination.
Okay. And can that structure then be altered according to the plans that we have, or is it?
Potentially, I think that is something that we would have to look at and review with city architect and potentially with legal to determine where the bounds of the board motion is.
Okay.
I have one question. Do you know if this was cinder block or CMU? Do you know?
Or CMU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't appear to be historic, and that's, with the oversights came from, and the termite damage because of the masonry in contact with the wood, it's ridden termite, and the block wasn't put in place well. It wasn't structurally sound.
everyone.
Thank you. The
Yeah,
applicant
50
presentation and public comment period is now closed. We will now go into board discussion and a vote.
Okay.
They do that.
This is
But I think this house, the house is probably 50, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably. We're not board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're now.
We're just saying.
You are now.
We are in board. Sorry. I mean, but I think that building is probably same time as the house. And if you look at the aerials, those bigger garage, that's a pretty good sized garage for a small house. Those bigger garages, there's a pattern of them along the street and in that neighborhood. Not little tiny garages. You see some of the neighborhoods in that area, but bigger garages is that area. And there are a number of them right along the street. There's my instinct is that it's original to probably to the construction of the house, just from the pattern. And I think if it's no. Or silly 1950s.
Yeah, these after the fact, they're always unfortunate. Because I mean, and you know, we weren't able to actually go and evaluate the structure. We just have these 3 photographs to go by. But the building's gone. Just looking at these 3 photographs, it didn't look like it was in the best of shape. But once again, it's tough to tell just with these 3 photographs.
Someone like to make a motion?
If I made a motion, it would be for denial of after the fact demolition. And to work with staff on design for replacement that would meet the board's requirements for denial. Allow the structure to be reconstructed.
We have a motion on the floor by Fillmore. Is there a second? I can't second as the chair.
I'm struggling with this one because if it came up, it was coming around for demolition. My vote probably would have been to let it go. It's just after the fact that makes it so much harder.
I look at this one like the last one, and this building it's not got much going for it. It's a very simple concrete block building. Looks like the front gable is probably pushing in. So I'm okay with letting it go. I mean, I don't like to vote yes on after the fact approvals, but just judging by the pictures alone, I think this is probably something that I probably would have voted to allow.
I think I'm with you on that. Need to make a motion?
Since Fillmore's motion was not seconded, someone else could make a motion.
Make a motion to approve demolition. It could be further discussion, and if you guys cannot come to a conclusion, and then with the tie vote, we would allow the applicant to come back, and ensure that he has an odd number of board members. I hate having even numbers, but we found out last minute that Lindsay wasn't available and I couldn't get an alternate.
I'm sorry, do I have a second? Oh, I already got a second. Okay, I'll put the motion to vote. Fillmore,
And they opposed.
Bill,
You in favor?
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor?
and the chair is also opposed. So the motion is tied 2-2.
Yeah, so the motion would fail.
So the motion failed.
So you can continue for discussion.
Okay.
I mean, in all honesty, I'm not happy, obviously not with the opportunity to see it. But if I made the assumption, this structure was, of course, the other structure was, that we looked at, that was mentioned earlier, was a wooden structure. And
Right.
so it had more opportunity to be in worse condition. It was also determined that it was not original to the structure. And this building probably is original to the structure, so I think it's a little different than the first one. And it's also cinder block, so it may or may not have been in better or worse condition than the previous one. So I look at this a little differently. If to be honest, if it were in probably as bad a condition, and if it were not original to the house, I would probably vote demolition. There's an opportunity here not to shut the door on getting something along the lines of what the property owner wants, with an appropriate design that would be approved either by staff or sent back to the board for after the fact reconstruction.
I think the dilemma is there isn't any historic
And
informational facts.
right, I mean, we don't have a lot of information here. And so I'm reluctant to give approval for after the fact demolition. Because every time we do that, it's a signal not necessarily for this client, but obviously,
Yeah.
but for other people to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And our only real mechanism for protecting structures in these areas is the demolition. So
But
I'm reluctant to, with the limited amount of information we have here, I'm reluctant to give that up. But I think there's a reasonable avenue forward to get a structure that would be at least reasonably in line with what they went in the reconstruction, right?
I see this as, we often get after the fact demolitions where we know it was somebody trying to get around something. It was, but I don't think that's the case with this. I think it was just something that fell through the
I
cracks.
don't either.
And also I look at the architectural merit of the book, its character, and it's a very simple concrete block garage. And it really, to me, does not have much significance to it. So
As are most of the ancillary structures built along those buildings up there. If you look at the neighborhood. Most of them are pretty simple. And a lot of them are concrete blocks, some of them are wood frame. They're basically simple little garages that were built with simple housing.
and I know this would be so much easier if we had authority, approval, ability for new construction up in this area, but we don't, we can.
Does it
And
make
there's-
sense for the applicant to approve the historic nature of it or give some background on that?
I look at that building, I'm like. I mean, it's
What
has
are we
no
keeping?
significance, architectural. It's a very simple utilitarian building. If it were built in the same materials, the same style as the primary structure of the house, I would feel very different. But this was obviously a cost-effective way of building a garage.
Yeah, we hate approving these after the facts, but, and I can only speak for myself, I would have approved demolition on this if it were submitted properly. So I guess we're a little stuck.
Yet, we had it would be simpler if we had a full board, I think, to solve this, but we don't have a full board.
Um,
And for it.
Yeah,
Deny it.
if you cannot come, if you would still have a tied vote, then we can defer it and I can bring it back at a following meeting and ensure that there's a full board. That's it. We've only had this happen once and it was years ago. And we would put him at the top of the agenda and just go through the motion again.
I just don't want to I don't want to vote on this simply because it's an after the fact request. I don't think there was anybody trying to get away with anything else. It was a simple thing. I think it fell through the cracks. And I'm looking primarily at the architectural merit of this building, and there's not much to it. I'll put up a second motion and approval as submitted.
Okay, let's put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
We
Do
would
we have
need a
to use
second.
that?
What?
We would need
Oh, I
a
need
second.
a
Same motion.
sorry.
What do you mean by approval as submitted?
Yeah, approval as demolition.
Oh, okay. I'll second.
So we have a motion from Bill, seconded by Daryl. Let's put it to a vote. Fillmore,
Hey,
Bill.
Yay.
Yeah.
And actually, I will vote with the majority for approval for the demo. The motion passes.
The
3 to
motion
1.
passes.
Our next item is item B5, 153.5 Queen Street.
Right.
I'm Dax Nelson.
Let me give you an introduction real quick. All right, 153.5 Queen Street is in Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is a category 3, main house circa 1860 in the Olden Historic District. Requesting approval for the complete demolition of buildings. This is the property's location here. And now I will turn it over to the applicant.
Part of the demolition is we had the structural engineer go in and he looked at the structure in the back. It was out of plumb and it had major deterioration of the foundation. And the structure termites are eating up most of the base of the foundation. And some of the structure is overlapping on other people's property, I guess, when it was built and other walls were built. And the air conditioning unit overlaps over top of another property. And it's, as the structural engineer stated, it's unrepairable. And we also had the city inspector come out and take a look at it and gave him pictures and things like that. And he also stated that he gave a second vote to say if in place. We want to build it back like in kind with the same materials, same look as the front building that we're restoring right now. And that's just basically what we want to do.
Thank you. Do any board members have a question for the applicant? Do we have anyone from the public speaking?
Kate Utility Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF appreciated the opportunity to visit the site this morning. As indicated by the Sanborn map, this building appears to have been on the 1888 Sanborn map. While we acknowledge the structural concerns, we encourage efforts to restore and repair the building rather than demolish it. We respectfully request that this demolition request be denied.
Marina Nor Conservation Society of Charleston. According to the documentation provided, this kitchen house appears on the 1888 Sanborn map and retains its original form. While this accessory structure has unfortunately suffered from years of neglect, it stands as an intact example of the developmental history of the Charleston Village neighborhood and the evolution of this property. The PSC encourages immediate stabilization and asks that the applicant return to the board in a timely manner with a rehabilitation plan to preserve the existing form and as much historic material as possible, while replacing any unsalvageable material. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? Frankie, could you please give us staff recommendations?
Staff observations, many character defining features remain on the structure. And it is visible from Queen Street. Our staff recommendation would be denial of demolition.
Thank you, Frankie. Would the applicant like to address any of the comments made? We will now go into board discussion in a bit.
I think we all walked through it this morning. And, we have seen far worse buildings than this completely restored, and this thing is 100% restorable. And so I'm not in favor of this demolition.
I'm nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
Someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion for denial of demolition.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Bill with a second by Fillmore. We'll put the motion to a vote. Darryl,
You in favor?
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes 4-0. Our next item is B6, 69 Washington Street. I get too fast.
No, you were good. I was just putting my note that Daryl is recused for this item. Okay, 69 Washington Street is in Council District 8. It is a category, that house is a category 4, circa 1872 in the Old Historic District. Requesting approval for the complete demolition of ADU and deck and stairs. This is the property's location on Washington Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ashley Strobel on behalf of Cobb Architects, and this evening we are requesting approval for the complete demolition of a non-historic accessory dwelling unit and the raised wooden deck that connects the ADU to the main residence at 69 Washington. So here is an image overview. The zoning maps, you can see that we are in a very diverse area of the Charleston Peninsula. The ADU, unfortunately, the little guy is in shadow in between 69 Washington and 67 Washington, which happens to be our office. We are excited to work on this project. All right. Historic documentation indicates that a rear dependency once existed on the property, but was removed prior to 1944. On the Sanborn map, you can really can't see it unless you zoom in. Can you zoom in on this?
I can
Rachel can zoom in.
It might not be that important. We'll just continue on. Oh, there you go. Which one did you want? That guy, the one on the top. So you can see that the rear dependency is behind 69 Washington. At some point in between 1902 and 1944, they subdivided that lot to create an address on Charlotte Street, and it now resides to the south of the main structure. Archival photographs from the 1997 renovation of the primary structure reveal the ADU with a different footprint and roof configuration. You can zoom back out. I apologize. So the 1997 photos are at the bottom of the screen. So this suggests that it may have been substantially altered or entirely rebuilt during that period. The 1998 photo, which is the one in color and sort of in the middle of the screen, It shows that it supports these changes between 1997 and 1998. You can see that the footprint of the building has changed. And you can also see that the roof type has changed from a flat shed roof to a gable. The current ADU is a one-story, approximately 284 square foot structure situated in very close proximity to the neighboring buildings. These are some images of that ADU at closer inspection of the main door, which actually faces north. And it looks at the south side of 69 Washington with a dilapidated window deck spanning between it. And you can see there's not much space between the south facade and 67 Washington. And there's not a lot of space behind the ADU, which backs up against the Charlotte Street residence. So these recent photographs illustrate its existing condition, revealing modern construction methods and materials inconsistent with the historic fabric. There we go. Got some more examples of that. The images also indicate portions of the structure that appear newer than the underlying brick pier foundation, with conventional joist framing and contemporary oversight. So you can see that along the left side of the page. You can see that the footprint was cantilevered out over a previous brick foundation pier that is not an historic brick. So you can see that new structure cantilevering, and the accompanying slides provide visual context on the current site plan. You can see where that one-story ADU is situated in the bottom left corner of the lot, very tight to the adjacent structures. And we also have an architectural detailing of the main facade, floor plan, and this is the building that we are proposing to demolish. I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone speaking from the public?
You can ask questions in any order.
Frankie, could you give us staff recommendations?
Staff just had some observations. Due to the photos, we believe that the current accessory structure was reconstructed in 1997 due to those conditions in the photos. Due to that, staff does not oppose the demolition.
Would the applicant like to respond to the comments?
There's
Okay, thank you. The board will now go into discussion and a vote.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. You said Frankie, 97.
The photos were from 97, yes.
Time that will 80 years. Yeah, I think it's definitely 85, 1985 or after.
Yeah.
So I don't have any objection to it.
I don't have any objections either.
Would someone like to
I'll
make a motion?
a motion for approval demolition.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We can put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah,
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes 3-0.
Okay.
Our next item is B7, 69 Washington Street.
Well, great. All right, we are still at 69 Washington Street, which is Council District 8. At this time, the applicant is requesting a conceptual approval for exterior alterations, including raising the home and altering the piazza. I'm sorry, we've already seen the location, so I'll turn it back over to the applicant.
Thank you.
I can't type and talk at the same time.
I get it. Okay. So the intent of this submittal is to seek conceptual approval for the renovation and vertical elevation of the main residence and the reconstruction of a non-historic accessory dwelling unit at 69 Washington. Sorry, it gets a little funky. That's okay, thank you. This slide looks very similar to the previous presentation. But again, we've seen that site plan, so this work here aims to preserve and enhance the property's architectural integrity while meeting current flood requirements and improving overall site organization. We have previously received the necessary approvals for structural modifications and variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals. This includes special exception for the main house to be granted vertically expand the main structure by 1 foot above design flood. We had a variance received for the front setback, which is by code a standard of 70 feet from the front of the property. However, because our lot was subdivided in the past, we obviously don't have that depth. So what we wanted to do is get the ADU out of that corner and push it forward a little bit so someone could come in and do maintenance behind and to the side of the ADU. Let me show you where that go. Yeah, you can see how close it is. Less than 3 feet on both sides, and at one point it goes down to around inches. And we also requested lot coverage increase. So when we remove that deck that spans between the ADU and the main structure, we're gonna have to add in a new set of stairs and a very small, modest entry porch into the new ADU. Similarly to the historic context from the previous presentation, the main structure dates back between 1872 and 1885, and it is identified as a Charleston single house with a historic rear dependency, shown in the 1902 Sanborn. However, the rear portion of the lot was subdivided, and it was either, the dependency was either removed or relocated. And over time, the piazza experienced various alterations, which include partial enclosure at the rear of the building and the addition of exterior stairs when the house was converted for multifamily use. So you'll see at the bottom photos, there is an exterior fire stair that is located outside of the piazza. During a 1997-98 renovation, that fire stair was actually restructured into the piazza. And later renovations in the late 20th century, late 90s, it included rebuilding the ADU on top of historic brick piers. And then they also made non-historic alterations to the main house. This next slide shows the historic fabric of the neighborhood and surrounding 69 Washington. There's a mixture of residences and businesses, both on small and large scale. And the northwest view, which is in the bottom right corner, depicts the area where a new large multifamily development is in the works. So this is what has been approved. This is just to show you how the city is ever evolving in height, scale, and mass. Besides elevating the home, we'll be making a lot of effort to restore the piazza to a more historic setting. These are detailed images that show the current condition and style of architectural elements. So we do have round wood columns turned balustrade with a historic rail and cap. However, those brick piers the columns sit on is non-historic. The brick stairs are non-historic. The patio is non-historic. And you can essentially tell where the extent of the piazza used to be. At the top of the stairs, there is a non-historic balustrade. However, we will actually be trying to include that design into the renovation project. These are some of the conditions of the windows and the siding that need some love. The rear of the building has a non-historic patio door, which we will be removing. And so for the main structure, we also will be introducing dormers and a piazza screen. We've gathered some precedents around the area showing the desired look of the dormer, very small in nature, and the look and precedent of the piazza screening. One in particular being 6 Charlotte Street, the beige building in the middle top right, I mean, in the middle, on the top of the slide. This is the newly proposed site plan. I'm going to skip to the floor plan. This is showing both the main house and the ADU structure. The ADU structure shows the footprint and the footprint of the stairs that will be redone. So for the main structure, we're planning on raising the house to meet flood elevation at 2 feet above base flood and reconstruct the foundation out of continuous concrete block with stucco finish. We will restore and repair the historic piazza, removing the non-original metal exterior stair and reintroducing a simpler stair interior of the piazza out of wood. We will add new piazza screening at the street level for privacy and improved facade composition. Here is an elevation of the main structure, and I will get to the ADU here shortly, but it will show you the conceptual elevation of that piazza screening and also the dormers in the attic level. We plan on restoring the existing siding, windows, shutters, and trim where feasible, and replacing in kind where needed. And we plan on relocating the roof-mounted HVAC equipment to a screened platform at grade. This is the north facade of 69 Washington. This is viewing from Charlotte Street. Here is a view of the south facade, illustrating the new piazza, stair, vertical foundation vents or louvers, the raised mechanical stand. We will be adding a window, a transom window in the back where that non-historic door used to be. And that will be in like and kindness with the rest of the windows. The dormers, we feel are proportionate in size to the main house. We have them directly, we have the central dormer directly above the main entrance. And we've mirrored that on either side in between the windows. And I'll move to the accessory dwelling unit. As we plan to demolish the non-historic ADU, we want to rebuild it with the existing footprint, but we want to pull it off the west and south property lines. We would like to include a modest entry porch and raised floor aligned with the main house's finished floor elevation at 2 feet above base flood, which is 1 foot above design flood. As the plan exists, the living and sleeping quarters are one and the same. So elevating the overall plate height allows for lofted sleeping quarters and a dedicated living space on the main level. So you can see at the bottom of the plan, centrally, that's the main level. And if you go to the left side of the presentation sheet, you will see the lofted area towards the rear of the ADU. In elevation, the proposed design incorporates materials compatible with the main structure while introducing a subtle contemporary character. This is achieved through the use of Dutch lap siding with minimal trim and tight eave overhangs, clad-wood STL windows, shiplap siding at the dormers, and a simple square baluster with a round handrail, which we plan on matching to the new staircase that runs inside the piazza of the main house. The accessory structure maintains a scale and mass appropriate to its secondary role in the site while enhancing the overall architectural cohesion between the two buildings. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
In terms of the piazza screen, do you have sort of any documentary evidence as to what, if there was an original piazza screen, what it might have been?
We don't know if there ever was an original piazza screen. However, sorry,
go ahead.
However, all the homes along Charlotte Street do have them. So we were inclined to bring that character over to 69 Washington, and it would actually screen that internal piazza stair, which we believe will look very nice from the street view.
Think the house next door doesn't have, or does it?
67 Washington does not. And it also never, you never exited the piazza to the front street side. You always exited to the side.
Thank
you.
Do we have anybody speaking from the public?
And more of the Preservation Society of Charleston, the PSC appreciates the applicant reaching out to us to discuss this project. We are excited to see this substantial rehabilitation and elevation project move forward and encourage the applicant to repair in kind and retain as much historic material as possible. As this project progresses, we encourage continued study of the proposed dormers to minimize impact to the historic roof form. Given that the floor plans do not indicate that this will be habitable space, we don't find compelling reason for such a significant alteration to the historic roof form. We encourage eliminating the dormers, or at the very least, limiting them to the south or piazza side only. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Frankie, will you give recommendations?
Yes, ma'am. Staff had some observations. The proposed accessory is subordinate to height scale and mass. Due to the proximity to the neighboring single house, we think it needs to be reduced in height, at least visually. It is atypical to have dormers on the north side of the existing historic structure. And I didn't notice this before, so just a note, confirm the track being located at grade with floodplain. Because I feel like I've had some lately where they've required them to be elevated.
They're gonna be elevated.
Okay, I thought they were like actually on grade, so.
She said that, but they're on a stand.
Then I will get rid of that. I just made a note to say it because. Anyway, staff condition for approval, on the accessory, push dormers toward rear of structure or remove the front set to reduce presence at streetscape. And remove dormers on north side of existing historic structure. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with board and staff conditions and the preliminary final review to be done by staff in the permit.
Would the applicant like to address any of the comments made?
Daryl Cobb Architects. In respect to the ADU, if we remove the front dormers, I think the building would look a bit lopsided. Can you pull that elevation up?
You said the ADU.
Yeah, that's the ADU. See, right now, that's kind of, in our opinion, my opinion, that's a symmetrical elevation. So if I got rid of that front dormer, I think that would not.
I will also state that that comment was written before we realized it was going to be placed behind the existing wall. So. And we didn't have time today to reconsider. We didn't discuss again, so.
And we have pushed it back off the front facade and it is below the ridge line too. So we've tried to minimize it.
Yeah.
But the owner is trying to add light to the spaces. And it looks good from the outside.
The applicant presentation and public comment period is now closed.
Okay, and I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'm the owner, I'm Pat Flynn, and I just wanted to address what's one of the recommendations to remove the dormers on the north side of the main residence, or is that not?
Yes, that we are maintaining, as it would typically, you would just have dormers on south side, if you had dormers.
And I just wanted to point out for the board that I don't know whether you can pull up the number 6 Charlotte Street, but that's we're trying to keep this consistent with the block. And number 6 Charlotte Street does have dormers on the there we go, on that lower left. That's on the non-piazza side, which even though I guess technically that's the east side, that would be more consistent. You could, if you were standing on Charlotte Street, you would see the dormers on the north side of 69, and you would see the dormers on the east side of 6 Washington. So that would just be kind of consistent with the neighborhood. Also, I just point out that, everything changes when you put that gigantic multifamily right next door. So to the extent we could have as much light as we could, because that is gonna be a monolithic shadow over this whole property. You could see how small this little group is. So our goal would be that the dormers would allow additional light into the structure, perhaps through a cathedral ceiling or something like that. So that was the reason why I personally, as the owner of the building, wanted one of the dormers to remain as designed. I think it's an elegant design, and those are all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The applicant presentation and public comment period is now closed. We will now go into board discussion and a vote.
On the main house, the only comments I really have is that the piazza screen is speculative. It's certainly nice and it's appropriate. Theory is appropriate. It is speculative. Of course, the dormers we know did not exist. The dormers are small. They would typically, I agree, would only be on the piazza side. Normally. But they are small. I'm not sure that house. The only thing that makes me think that house had a piazza screen is if the column pattern on the upper porch is consistent, and it probably had a piazza screen.
Yeah.
But I think it's not the evidence there. It is pretty speculative, but architecture, it's nice.
Yeah.
I don't know how fellow board members feel about that. Out of the other.
Yeah, my observation just over the years, just I do a lot of walking around downtown Charleston, is that Charleston single houses that are accessed straight from the street, they generally have a piazza screen, and the ones that don't have a piazza screen are usually accessed from the side. Yeah, and so I think probably, I think there's a greater chance, in my opinion, that this original had a piazza screen.
Of course, the first floor porch is completely gone, but
Right.
so I don't have the evidence, but I agree. Generally, the column pattern, if you had a piazza screen, is consistent, not related to the entry door. And it looks like that's the way this was.
Yeah.
I'm so inclined to think it had a.
Yeah, it could have been removed when they.
Yeah, the columns could have been rearranged. So I think
But I think I think the piazza screen helps to, just as it was pointed out, helps to screen those internal stairs. Yeah, so I think that's helpful. I think it's appropriately detailed and designed. I don't have any issue with the elevating of the building. It's done sensitively and it's not going up.
My only comment about the elevation is that the vents need to be on the sides, not on the front.
Yes, that's possible. I agree.
Foundation that shouldn't be on the street face. It should be moved to the side. That's no, I think the elevation is done appropriately.
And I agree with the dormers with you, that the dormers were never there, and we never liked it when we know that something was never there on our historic building. And we know definitely these were not there. You just don't add, it's speculative. Looking at the floor plans, this is an attic space. They're not garret rooms. Usually if you had roof dormers like that, they were up there for a reason. They were up there for, you had garret rooms up there. And this does not, it's just attic space. So I am opposed to the addition of any of the dormers. And as far as the ADU is concerned, I don't really have any comments on that.
The shed roof dormers are really well, it would be nice if they were reduced a little bit in size. Along that street pattern, I have a little issue with that three-gang front window. It would be more appropriate. If it related a little better to a more traditional window pattern. It's not a make or break thing for me, but I think it's just like the shed roof dormers. I would rather see them pull back from, not be coplanar with the walls of the house to give a little more.
Maybe a
Traditional street
maybe
presence of the house.
pair of windows on front.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would look better. And again, I guess with the wall, they would see it, but that should be, foundation that should not be on the street face of the structure.
I don't think you're ever going to get a full view of the storm drain.
I think we. It's kind of
Flashy, this on the elevator.
Make a motion for conceptual approval with the condition that all dormers are removed from the main house. And the street facing elevation of the ADU, that the triple gang windows be reduced to two individual windows. That'll help kind of marry with the pattern in the adjacent building. And with preliminary and final review by.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Bill. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Let's put it to a vote. Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Yeah, in favor.
And the chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes 3-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next item is item B8, 56 Bull Street.
56 Bull Street is in Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is not surveyed circuit 21 in the Old Historic District. They are requesting conceptual approval for an accessory structure. This is the property's location on Bull Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, I am Julia Martin with JFM Architects, here representing our clients, Kevin and Haley Mills, who own a property at 56 Bull. We are requesting review of a detached accessory structure as permitted by the zoning ordinance. We've taken a long and winding path to get to this point, and I will elaborate on that a little bit as we go. Okay, cool. Like so. Okay. So the dwelling at 56 Bull is commonly referred to as the Denver that have the meaningful symbolic significance despite some historical disconnects. And despite having actually been constructed in the 1830s, which is after Denmark Vesey's death, but be that as it may, it's a fine and well-preserved freedman's cottage, and we would never question the need to treat it with respect. For a little background on this application, in case you didn't read all about it in the papers, the current owners purchased the property late last year and reached out about adding a little more living space, which is currently 933 square feet. They were aware that the ordinance allowed an accessory structure, but once we wrapped our heads around all the design parameters, we encouraged them to consider an attached addition, which could be tucked under the rear eave and wouldn't have to be elevated to current required DFE. But that approach would require a rear setback variance due to some odd implications of the lot constraints. The owners were willing to follow our lead, and they agreed to let us pursue that variance, which was tailored well for a comfortable single family 3-bedroom house, honest but comfortable.
So up at the top here, you can see what we proposed at that time. An attached addition in a typical Charleston vein, hyphenated and subordinate, attached to a portion of the existing structure that dates to sometime after 1955. It's nowhere near the original footprint of the structure, nor is it touching an earlier addition here. We were proposing to attach a little one-story addition off the back of this much less part of the building. And I'm proud to say that design was supported by the Preservation Society at the time of our zoning request. And the request was granted back in June, and we thought we'd be bringing this concept to you for your review soon thereafter. But then a neighbor who we'd been talking to all along and who was in the loop decided to appeal the board decision, which led to a truly bizarre string of events that I don't think we'll ever be able to comprehend. There was an uproar about us adding a bedroom to increase rental income when we were not adding a bedroom, we were adding a dining room / office that you had to walk through to get to the third bedroom. There was complaining about our clients coming here from Myrtle Beach and being in the real estate industry. And the congregation of Holy Trinity Church across the street was recruited and convinced to sign a misleading petition against us. It was truly surreal and it was painful. And it ultimately resulted in an outcome that is arguably worse for everyone and everything involved. Long story short, the board granted the appeal. We returned to present our case again, and the board changed course and denied our request. So that's how we got to where we are today. Our clients would still like to add a little bit of living space to their house, and their only compliant option is to detach that space in a small accessory structure in the backyard. So that footprint is completely zoning compliant. It's a modest guest suite, less than 250 square feet. And again, the main design challenge is related to our flood zone requirements. So the historic cottage has a first floor elevation at 10.2, which is right here. And that's almost 2 feet below where it should be based on current FEMA requirements. And it follows that that's almost 3 feet below the required elevation for new construction, which our accessory building is new construction. So we've pulled out all the design tricks we have in our arsenal to try and mitigate that height. The proposed ceiling is set at 8 feet. We've added a water table under the siding to draw the eye down and downplay the height of the foundation wall. We're proposing a decorative treatment at the foundation vents on balusters and frames rather than typical 8x16 flood vents. And although we'd originally studied this as a very low slope roof with a truncated parapet, we're now strategically proposing a shallow hipped roof instead, because it actually allows us to pull the eave line down slightly and lessen the visual impact, even though the ridge of the roof reads a little taller in 2 dimensions. Hipped roofs, as I'm sure you all know, are deceptive in this way. And we think this approach is better all around, including for the light and the air getting through to the neighboring properties. All right, here you can see the site section and get a sense of how the whole site works. Like I mentioned earlier, our sincere preference was to accommodate this extra space as an attached addition, but despite our best efforts to get that approved, we were unsuccessful. That said, we've given this compliant paradigm a lot of thought, and I believe this solution is about as diminutive and respectful as it can possibly be. And it's certainly reversible if future generations should wish to erase it. The 3D study down at the bottom right was plugged in from a vantage point that doesn't even show the new structure at all. So if it's okay, I would like to share a couple of slightly forced views which do reveal little pieces of the new building. And they are highlighted in yellow here to see like the little slivers that you can actually see. Okay. Where you get to?
Get that one, thank you.
But it's safe to say that the impact of this structure to the streetscape is minimal. There is a partial view corridor from Smith Street as well, which was shown in the applicant set. But we've tried mightily to lessen the impact all around. The last thing I'll mention is we will probably suggest painting the structure in a deep neutral color with a monochromatic approach. And that's, you know, pretty common in many historic contexts, and we would do that just to further downplay its presence and help it recede as much as possible into its surroundings. And in case there's any question on the part of staff, I was hoping perhaps that idea could be considered by the board as well, and if possible, worked into a motion somehow. These are just some examples of some modest structures that are painted in a monochromatic way to disappear. And I think that's all I have at this point. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is there any plans for the owners to raise the main house in the near future or no?
Not at the moment, but they certainly have that right as well, and that will take it up.
Yeah.
Cost to be, yes.
Thank you. Does the board have any further questions for the applicant? Is anybody speaking from the public?
Good evening, my name is Ron Horn, I live at 54 Wall Street. I've lived there since 1989. This proposal, I feel is detrimental, certainly to the community, to my neighbors, and certainly the build to my home. Presently, almost 70% of my view is looking at 56 Wall Streets, either the roof or the siding. This proposal, 90% of my view will be taken by either the roof or the siding. My downstairs facing, I won't have anything except their property. This also be negative to my neighbor who lives on the north side. And he's also mentioned that he's against this proposal. The proposal also includes small windows. Allowed, I know, what's supposed to be Charleston etiquette on my side and on my neighbor's side. There's also a privacy screen, which you can see here. The screen goes 15 feet above, around 15 feet above the eaves. We have a fence that goes all the way across. It's over the normal, it's 8 feet tall. With this proposed screen, basically knock out about maybe 10 feet of view that I could see something like just a little space through here just to see some kind of space. This basically remove 3 feet from my view of the 9 to 10 feet or whatever I had left. It's sort of hard to take. I don't think it's appropriate anyway. Also concerned about the size, scale, and manner. But this proposal in relation to the BC home. My area, the neighborhood, when I moved there, was a mixed neighborhood. And a long time ago, the people who remained, people who are gentrified out, and the people who moved there feel strongly that this is one of the most important assets to our community. 56 Wall Street's on the National Historic
Registry of Historic Places. Reflects America's, and more importantly, reflects Charleston's history. In line with the standards that Charleston has set for preservation. I hope the footprint of history is respected to site, so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public speaking?
My name is Alfonso Brown. I have a tour company called Gullah Tours, and my interest in the property is tourism related. I've been a tour guide ever since 1985, and I've shown that house at Denmark Beach House as long as 1985. Before that time, many other tour guides, carriage tours, also show the house as a tourist house, tourism. House is built. That is built. The house is said to be Denmark Beach House. There are some claims or some rhetoric that it's not Denmark Beach House. Well, that rhetoric came about around the same time that they were erecting the statue of Denmark Beach in Hampton Park. We were trying to find a place to put it. So the rhetoric came about as people who are trying to discredit the property and everything. The house is one of Charleston's finest Freedman style cottage, a one-story single house with a low gable roof. That should remain the same, a low gable roof, one-story single house.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jim Lundy. I reside at 39 Smith Street, and I'm the owner of 47 Bull Street, which is across the street and 2 doors down from 53. I've lived in Charleston Village for 37 years, and I will never forget one date in my life, and that is May 22nd, 1990, and that's when I bought 47 Bull, my first house. I was 24 years old. It's hard to imagine now, but Charleston Village used to be affordable, and even to this day, I feel like Charleston Village is the most diverse neighborhood in downtown Charleston as far as age, as far as race, as far as income levels, in every way, building use, and we are the largest neighborhood. But of all 84 National Trust properties are on the National Register, downtown Charleston, only 3 of them are on the register, 4 being important to the history of the African American population. And the Denmark Vesey House is the only one that is south of Calhoun. The other 2 are Central Baptist on Radcliffe Street and Mother Emanuel, which Vesey had a hand in founding originally. Of all of those 3, important African American sites, this is the only one visited by carriage tours. It is seen by, I don't know how many thousands of people every year and hundreds of people every day who are told the story about Vesey and this having this important visual presence to look at while they're told the story is part of the experience. The neighborhood has changed, but I consider there's a few normal people there, people who, like me, who could afford a house. I paid $97,000 for 47 Bull Street. Ron is one of my normal neighbors too. He's a school teacher. He was the first neighbor I ever met when I moved in. And in fact, I think my father met you before I did. He came to visit and talked to Ron, and he said, "I met your neighbor. He's a really nice guy." But anyway, my point here, and I know we're not supposed to stray from architectural matters, but the importance of this house on the National Register, whether it's on the register or not, for his, reasons that are true, it is the reason that any addition to the back of it would be a violation of its importance. I can't think of the 84 other properties, almost every single one of them were built by enslavers. So this is the only residence that is ascribed to an African American's history and to be on the National Register. And I think that's the point that I wanted to make. I've been up at this podium many times. I was on Charleston Village Neighborhood Association for 15 years. And I talked to the BZA mostly, but also the BAR. And we've been trying to defend our neighborhood from the avarice of developers for a long time, and especially working hard to eliminate illegal short-term rentals. This building is valuable to the owner, Mr. Mills, because it's on the historic register and it qualifies to be a short-term rental. It is currently on the market for $8,500 a month, and you would think that that's enough for anybody, but to build another apartment, and despite what has been said, the owner will not live there and has no intention to live there. These are rentals and very expensive ones. And thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Phil Noble. I live on the corner of Pitt and Bull Street. First, I want to thank you for what you do in preserving our neighborhoods. I know it's a sacrifice of your time and frustration in dealing with all this, but we are all richer for your work, and thank you. I think I am the longest resident of Bull Street. Somebody called me the mayor of Bull Street. I've been there the longest and sort of looked out over the neighborhood. And he's right, the neighborhood is radically different from what it used to be, because the neighbors care about the neighborhood, and we invest our time and energy in the neighborhood and in each other. And that's what a community is supposed to be. I want to give you just a little bit of background on how we got here. You heard briefly about after the property was bought, there was a presentation to the BZA asking for an adjustment, and the materials filed.
This is not true, sir. You can't just stand up here and say things that aren't true.
The materials filed says, quote, the current owner intends to move here full time. Quote, that's their material, what they submitted as a part of the application. In the course of the proceedings, it came to the attention of the neighborhood that it was essentially a rental play. And the neighborhood became quite upset. And as a result, 71 members of the neighborhood signed a petition asking that ruling be considered. Originally, the BZA voted 5-4, said yes, that's fine. And when the neighborhood learned about it, they registered their opinion. 71 people said no, we don't want that. The BZA heard our hearings and voted unanimously, 9-0, to overturn their previous decision. 5-4.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we don't have any discussion of the zoning topics. Like, those aren't relevant at this meeting. This is the architecture only, like the building itself. So if you have comments related to that, we'd welcome. Okay,
do.
if you could go to those, I'd
Okay,
appreciate
I'll be
it.
happy to go.
Thank you.
In terms of the specifics of the building, I went today and met with city staff to review all the submissions that had been presented on behalf of this. And based on those discussions, we believe there are 5 reasons that you should reject this. Number one, the proposed structure is taller on 3 sides than the existing structure. It's not subservient to the structure. On 3 sides, it's larger than the structure. 2, the foundation on the proposed structure is higher than the foundation on the existing building. Number 3, the overall mass of the new structure is almost, not quite, almost greater than the original 1820 structure. Certainly not subservient. Number 4, as a part of the conceptual review, there was no streetscape submitted. None. No streetscape. Clearly, it requires a streetscape. It's one of the boxes. It was not done. The neighborhood feels that a streetscape would have shown just what we believed all along, that it's inappropriate, both in its size and its location, and to be able to see it from the city. And if it had not been so, then there would have been a streetscape. But they chose not to. So the process has not been completed. The necessary documents that you require have not been submitted. So for that reason, we would encourage you to first deny the request, and at a minimum, we'd ask you to defer it for 6 months. The neighborhood has been in continual discussions with a number of people with the city council people, neighborhood associations, and others about other alternatives to the existing proposal. So we would ask you, 1, to reject it, and 2, at a minimum, defer it for 6 months while we work through the alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public speaking?
Larry Antomer, Preservation Society of Charleston. The Preservation Society would just like to say that they feel the applicant has explored all options and is trying to remain as sensitive as possible given the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Frankie, would you give us staff's recommendations?
Yes. I want to make sure I had Larry's comment. Staff has some observations. The proposed structure is taller than the existing structure due to the elevation, which is required by FEMA. The roof style keeps the structure as low as possible, and the proposal is only minimally visible from the public right of way. And I will remind the board and the audience that BAR's purview is based on visibility from the public right of way. The staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with any board conditions and preliminary final review by staff.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to address any of the comments made?
It's ironic to say the least that I think we in my office share many of the concerns that have been expressed here. And we share a respect for this neighborhood, we share respect for the history of this property, for the symbolic significance of this property. And for all of those valid reasons, we encouraged our clients to seek a zoning variance to attach a very low and minimally impactful addition at the rear. But somehow we were opposed by this group of people to do that, and so we are now at a point of presenting what is allowed by the ordinance. There's a little piece of me that wishes one of you had purchased the property and not done anything, because that's clearly your preference, that nothing happened. But our clients are good people who want to spend more time there and are excited to be part of the neighborhood despite a very unfortunate welcome. They just want a little more space, and we did everything in our power to do it in the most sensitive and minimally impactful way. And we are continuing to do so just under the auspices of what's permitted to these property owners by the zoning ordinance. And they really are nice, decent people. I don't think they should be considered not normal or in any way dishonest. Neither should we, because we're not. There was nothing filed officially that said anything that was any way misleading. So that's really all I have to say. I appreciate Preservation Society support and staff support, and that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, let me know.
Julie, I have one for you. So obviously, I think you have been to zoning and you meet lot coverage and you meet the setbacks and parking and all that. So we're strictly looking at height, scale, and mass.
Yes.
You know,
Architecture.
and architectural merit. That's our only job.
Yes. Thank you. The applicant.
I have one-
presentation.
I'm sorry,
You wanna-
I apologize. I have one question. And the bridge of the hip on the ADU is slightly above the
Accessory.
accessory, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually not ADU, it's accessory.
Yeah.
It's slightly above the ridge height of the historic structure. I couldn't figure out exactly how much higher from the drawings.
Inches wide. I
Could you
really
tell me?
didn't even measure that, just knowing as I do the actual impact to human visibility. It's at a 3 and 12. That's what it is. I was trying to just be prudent in terms of the roof pitch, but if it's important to the board that it be a couple inches lower than the existing ridge height, it certainly could be.
Thank you. We will now go to board discussion and a vote.
And let's start.
Sure.
In respect to streetscape, it's behind the building, the main building. So I don't know where streetscape would have been an applicable drawing in this particular submittal. I think we're strictly here for height, scale, and mass. We can't say do or don't build a building. In my opinion, the architect has done everything she can to minimize the height, scale, and mass. And that 312 roof, you're never going to see it. You may see it from across the street at this angle for this little area.
And yeah, I always appreciate public input, but I don't see that this little building has an impact on the authenticity, or which to a large extent is associated with the materiality of the historic structure in front. I do not see how this building has an effect on the authenticity of the building. In front, I think it's architecturally compatible, slightly differentiated. I would, maybe just for political reasons, it'd be nice if the ridge were no higher, but I understand that that slight difference is the result of the required elevation treatment. So I think it's so minimal that it's the visibility is will be insignificant even at its current ridge height. And I appreciate the concerns of the neighbors, but I do not see how this building completely separated from the historic structure has any real impact on the historic authenticity of the front structure.
Yeah, this is a little unfortunate in that the addition was a much better solution. And it's unfortunate that it's got to this point. I live in the neighborhood, I live right around the corner, and probably gonna upset some people. But as a board, you know, we cannot, we have no thought, we have no say-so over whether or not we're blocking someone's view. We have no say-so over if it's gonna be a rental or it's not gonna be a rental. Those just are not in our purview. And given that, this thing has been forced down this road of becoming a separate structure, when it was going to be attached, it could match the floor level of the historic building. And it would have been much smaller, much more tucked in behind the back building. It had a nice hyphen separating it. But now everything's kind of forced into this separate building now. And yes, the separate building is taller, but it can't get any shorter. It's a one-story building that's built to flood standards, modern flood standards. So I just want to say we've kind of got, it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for with this one. But I agree with what both of you have said from a purely architectural standpoint, and that's what this board's purview is. It is subordinate in footprint. It doesn't matter if it's subordinate to the original structure or it's subordinate to the entire map of building that's on the site now. It is not subordinate in height, but there's no way to get it down any further. And this architect has been forced into this position where it has to be a separate structure. I think it's well designed. It's well designed by a very respected architect in Charleston. And I understand the neighbors' concerns, and in the perfect world, you know, there would be no addition or no separate building. But the owner has a right. He has a right under zoning. He meets all of the zoning requirements. So we can only look at it from purely an architectural standpoint, and I think it's a handsome design.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the design, approve conceptual approval with preliminary and final by staff.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Let's put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Staying.
Darrell,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority in favor, and the vote passes. It's 3-0. Yes, sir.
May staff recommend a brief break?
Yes.
So I
need to make a motion.
We can just call a break and we'll be back in minutes.
Okay, the board will be taking a break, but we'll be back in 10 minutes. Let's go.
I
Okay, thank you. Item B9, 158 Spring Street has been deferred, so we will move to item B10, which is 784 Rutledge Avenue.
784 Rutledge Avenue is in North Central, which is Council District 4. It is not surveyed, circa 1925 in the historic code. They are requesting a conceptual approval for 2 accessory dwelling units at the rear. This is the property's location on Rutledge. And I will turn it over to you.
I thank you, Joe Adrian, for the great design and good evening, good design and hopeful, very timeless. So let's walk through this. We've been here before, we're still seeing.
Sorry, once we zoom in on something, it tends to screw things up on all of them.
So I don't know that I'll go through too much. I'll really just kind of focus on the comments that we received from our last presentation and how we've addressed those. The last presentation comments had to do with the overall age of the proposed structures in the back were I still have them 1.5 inches higher than the front house. And so we did adjust pitch and knee wall to bring that down. So now I believe we're at 5 or 6 inches below. Everyone was concerned about the distance of separation between the back of the existing structure and where the front of our first proposed structure is. We have reduced the overall depth of each unit, not by much, and did push them closer together to create more separation between those units. And we'll get to that here on the proposed site plan. And you can see the top plan as the previous. We were at 12 feet 7.5. We have now adjusted to get the 15 feet of separation, still trying to keep an area that we can have some AC units, one accessible from this side, the other potentially from the alley side. These units can be used, but the rear of the back unit has not changed, and that is products of the civil and needing to work with the stormwater calculations and everything else. That's pretty much the hard stop that we've been given from the beginning of the project. And so I feel like we've reduced the depth of those units and continue to shove them away. And I'm hopeful that getting to 15 feet will be acceptable and agreeable. This is our existing elevations of an historic structure up front. Oh yeah, this is
Not a sore throat again, don't you?
no, it's over a month ago, and I'm still trying to recover. But thank you.
I still have a cough from mine last week. I'm understanding.
And so the more I talk, the worse it gets. But they're just elevations of the existing structure. You can see the length, depth of it. Some context photos or those. And this we've seen before, and I understand that what has been done left and right doesn't allow for me to do something that's grossly out of scale in a context. But I'm hopeful that when you look at these plans today, you will see that we are subordinate to the historic structure, and that we'll be able to move forward with the design. These are just, again, what's on the top is what was previous, what's below is proposed, and so you can see the difference in the width of that proposed structure, slight change in the overall depth of it. Just doing everything we can to maintain a program that works for our client, but that also is something that can be agreeable for y'all as in getting an approval. These sections, you can see again the change in the overall height of the proposed structure. We are in a flood zone, which is what is dictating that finished floor level. Unfortunately, if we were in X zone, we would be able to drop down a little further. Than the proposed before, after, previous, middle on top, proposed below. Overall, each time we've been told, architectural direction is good. We've got the double piazzas matching the length and depth. And you'll see that the overall height now is at 32 feet 3.5. It was 32.9.5. And I'll get to, I think, this is the second building in the back, very similar to the front one, a little different in just window and fenestration. On it. And then I'm trying to get to the site sections. So again, on top what was previous, below what is currently proposed, and looking at the we put dimensions so you can see the length of each of the proposed structures, the separation between, and the length of the existing house. So certainly the footprint is not matching or exceeding what's currently there. It is lower and it is no greater than the width of the existing house at the front. And then our streetscapes, you can see again on top was what was proposed before. The red was the part of the additional, the new houses in the back that was extending beyond. And we changed. The only thing that we are still remaining is the dormer that exists on the units in the back, and the dormer is required for our stair circulation to get up into that little partial third floor, that second or that half story. The larger view of it, so you can see, and again, I know it doesn't give approval, but you can see that what we're proposing is very conservative, I think, and modest compared to the rest of the street. And then we just done some 3D. We had these at the last presentation just to try to give you an idea of what you're going to see on our house versus different places as you're walking down Rutledge and looking back. Obviously, the greatest vantage point is in the upper right where you can see the structures. But as you go past, you don't, and I don't think you ever, if you're looking straight on, you're never going to see the roof of the proposed structures in back beyond the historic house up front. And so with that, I'll just take questions and
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Is anybody speaking from the public? Frankie, would you like to give your recommendations?
Staff has just one observation. The proposed structures have been reduced in height, scale, and mass, and have been shifted further back on the lot per the previous board motion. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with any board conditions and preliminary final review by staff of permit.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to those comments?
I like those comments.
The applicant presentation and public comment period is now closed. We will move into board discussion and a vote.
Yeah, the dimensional changes are small, but I think they are helpful. I think one thing that helps these buildings that help them read a little smaller is that their eave line is substantially lower than the front house eave line, even though the ridges are approximately the same. Yeah, given the fact that we've got neighboring properties on both sides that have rear houses that are substantially taller than these, I'm willing to grant leeway on subordination. I think on this, there's this one about 3/4 of a block on Rutledge that have these extremely deep lots like these that don't exist anywhere up and down Rutledge. And prior to the board having purview up in this area, I think 4 of those lots have been developed with those enormously tall buildings. So I don't think it's right to sort of penalize this property owner who is doing something that is not quite subordinate to the main house, but is substantially shorter than those that were built before the BAR had purview in that area. And I think Joel has really addressed the board's concerns, so I'm good with what I see.
Any comment?
I think the architectural direction is fine. I think the slight changes in footprint have helped. I still think the height is not subordinate. I think that that tends to make the development as a whole, going back to 2 additional buildings, not supported to the historic structure. I think if those buildings were pushed, I mean, if they've been pushed back a little bit from the first proposal, but they're still very close to the main house. If they were pushed further back, I think it would help mitigate the height. I still think they are taller. Other than that, I think the architectural direction is fine. Footprints are large but slightly subordinate, so I still have a little angst about the height.
Yeah.
But
I just think that given the 4 that were approved prior to the board having, it's kind of a unique situation.
I understand that. And certainly, there's no question that it's surrounded by ancillary structures that are inappropriate.
Yeah.
I would never suggest that it's not. I don't know if that's an argument to
Really, the ridge
not give consideration to our normal practices here when it comes to subordination. But I'm certainly willing to listen to arguments to the contrary.
Well, meaning the ridge would have been a little lower.
I think,
And
yes,
if
and I think
they
there's
would,
room to get it down. I know that everybody wants, 9 to 10 feet on the first floor, and everybody wants, feet on the second floor. And, but sometimes I think about the structure we just saw, which really, really pushed the limits of pulling
down
the height
could,
down,
yeah.
giving up a lot to do that. And so I think that there's room here to squeeze a little more subordination out of it. Now, I've often said I'm the one vote on this board. So.
Joel, what's your floor to ceiling heights?
We're actually,
On that section.
on page 11.
They're about 9.5 and about 8.5, aren't they?
Actually, they're not,
Yes.
that's floor to floor.
I go this way.
I was looking at that too.
We had them initially, we were 10-9 and trying to get, our flat on the half story up there at 8. Then after the first comments, we dropped those. Let's see here. And I can't remember if we went to 9'6" first floor, we went to 9 foot first floor.
I think it's about 9.6 and about
Well,
8.6.
so the ceiling
Second
height on A11 says 8.7 ceiling height. And then 8-foot ceiling height on the second floor.
Was
Right here, shows us right
That
here,
was
so.
nines.
Yeah, so our first floor is just under,
9.7.
is just under 9 feet. Second floor is right at 8 feet, and then third floor for a very small section will hit 8 feet. So it's already, we brought it down, and I think it's 5 inches is what we're lower than the roof in the front, so it is slightly lower.
I think it is 5 inches lower. Yeah.
5 inch. Maybe a mile in some instances.
So you're essentially 9 feet first floor, 8 feet second floor within inches, is what you're saying?
Yes, and I mean, I would like not to modify my 8 foot, that's an easy stud.
Yeah.
This one's already getting waxed, so I mean, if you all said, hey, we've got to go to take another 1.5 inches out of it.
I don't think an inch and a half is gonna make any difference. Yeah.
So.
And your third floor, your knee walls are,
Like they're either 2 feet or 18 inches. But it should say up here, so it's still 2 feet from the knee wall.
okay,
On that third floor.
okay, all right.
But I think Fillmore, what you're saying is we would have seen a little more reduction in the ridge height and potentially
Yeah.
a little more reduction in the width. Is that?
I mean, maybe you can't get it and have that, and get that much space.
Joel, what's the engineer, what kind of reason has he given you why these can't be pushed further back on the line?
I don't know, Bill, because I don't understand all of his calculations, but the very first, when the first project first came to me, I said, we need to shove them in the back. And then have the parking lot between the two houses. And he said, I don't know where he's running pipe or what's happening or the fall of the land. There was something, he's like, Joel, I cannot put those in the back and make those calculations work. I mean, it would have been done the meeting prior if I could have shoved them back. And if they would have been back there the first time, that would have been the only thing I had right. So, I mean, I would love to push them back. And I don't, so I even looked at, I was like, when go to that site plan. You open up, if you wanna, that's some kind of site plan if you could. Take a second. All right, and so I looked at it, I was like, well, if I can yank these two units out, I can probably shove this a little closer. Fire rate, I don't need windows on those walls. But then I'm having to locate these units here somewhere, and I don't know if it'd be okay to just shove those up the wall and have them hanging off the side. They gotta get up at least to the second floor because I have cars and parking that will be underneath them, but I'm willing to look at that if you're okay with the units. If we go to that rear elevation, maybe the building too.
They wouldn't be visible from the right of way.
You know, I mean, it'd make the elevation unattractive, just having these units sit up there, because there's gonna be probably three of them. But I guess we could do a split, the third floor, second could go on to one.
But that's not gonna buy you much room.
Yeah, so looking at this, I mean, we would put them off center. Maybe it's something here to keep them above, you know, in this zone.
So the reason they're not to the back is because you have infrastructure constraints.
It was completely civil driven on the location of the second building. That has not changed from each of our presentations to you. The only thing that's changed was the first building pushed back and then pushed back. Then we took some depth out of it, and we're still trying to accommodate rooms that are still, you know, close to 11 feet, 11 feet or so for a bedroom, and anything 10 by 9s or 10 by 10s.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'm stuck on this one. I agree with Fillmore about the massing because I don't see a big difference between the last one and this one. But then when I listen to Bill talk about the other buildings around it, I'm less concerned. So seems like I'm gonna vote with whoever you come up with.
I suggest you.
I'd like to make a motion for conceptual approval with preliminary and final reviews by staff.
I'll second it.
For the motion, we have a motion on the floor by Bill, seconded by Daryl. The motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority, and the vote is 4-0 in favor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree.
The next item is B11, 774 Rutledge Avenue.
That 74 is in North Central Council District 4. It is a category 4. And with proposed new construction, the existing building, circa 1925, is in the historic corridor district. Reflecting conceptual approval for new family dwelling use. This is the property's location on Rutledge, and I will turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Frankie. I'm Patrick Orfis with Arwen Studio Architecture.
Appreciate everybody hearing me tonight, or all of us tonight. We are proposing a new single-story, two-story, single-family dwelling on the rear of an existing property. Probably some similar discussions to the lab project that we just talked about, being just about 3 or 4 doors down. Couple of different scenarios going on with this property than the previous property. Got a couple of site plans here. About 5 years ago, there was a 2-story building on the backside of this property. It was torn down, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, but it was there for quite a while, 30, 40 years. So the middle site plan there is the current status of the lot without the second building back there. And then the lower site plan is what we are proposing. You can see we have tried to push this building about as far back as we can go to that rear setback line, trying to really downplay that any type of scale, any height scale from the streetscape itself. You've talked about it a little bit on the kind of precedent that's been set along the streetscape and what might have been done prior to BAR having a historic purview up there. But there are some massive houses to the rear of, the historic houses right on the streetscape. One of the, I won't say problems that we have, and one of the unique things to this site is it's the only single-story building on this streetscape. There is another one, kind of 3 houses down to the right. The next one is, I think, 5 houses down to the left. There's just not a lot of single-story pieces here. And by zoning, we are allowed 4 units on this site. There's actually 4 addresses associated with 774. We're trying to minimize that, make it 1, push everything to the back. So talking about that subordinate type of thing, we don't have 4 massive houses here. We're having 1 proportionally sized house. And you can see from the streetscape here that it's actually just about the same height or smaller than most of the 2-story buildings, whether right on the street or the buildings to the back. Little comparative elevations, site sections here showing the previous 2-story building, what we're proposing, and a view from across the street where you can barely see this 2-story building behind the 1-story building on Rutledge. So the building itself, we're proposing a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, about 2,400 square feet over 2 floors. So it's not a tiny building. It is more narrow than the existing historic building up front. It's also more narrow than the original 2-story building that was on the back of the site prior. So a couple elevations, we're proposing fiber cement siding, mix of board and batten, and 5/8 lap, aluminum clad windows, all stucco coated CMU foundation for the most part. Pitch of the roof is 9 and 12 over the main portion. Take you through about everything I think I have. Thank you.
It's one quick, it's not in a flood zone?
It's not in a flood zone, it's in a shaded X flood zone. So we are 3 feet above grade with crawl space. I don't like to do crawl spaces much lower than that with moisture and stuff that we have here.
Patrick, there's on the front elevation of right above the front steps, there's something going on that I'm not quite understanding. Extra lines in there. I don't know if there's a drafting error or if there's something shown that I don't quite understand. Can you? Yeah, it's hard to see on the screen out there.
Do you want me to zoom in? We're doing that anyway.
This here, it comes down and it's got sort of a kind of a nib on the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think I've seen that too. I think it's a drafting area. I've got a piece of trim, but it shouldn't be that big coming through. That might be a drafting area. Okay. It's showing the floor instead of the trim underneath the decking.
Okay.
Does the board have any additional comment, questions for the applicant? Is there any public comment?
Kate Utility Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF has reviewed the request for a new single family dwelling at the rear of 754 Rutledge. HCF would request that scale and mapping be restudied to be more complementary to the building currently on site and recommend.
London Park Preservation Society of Charleston. While the PSC recognizes that this large, deep lot with a one-story primary structure presents a unique design challenge for future development, the BAR ordinance is clear that the height, scale, and mass of secondary structures shall be subordinate to primary historic structures. We ask that the height and mass of the proposed building be reduced to be as differential as possible to the historic building. Additionally, we feel the proposed vertical siding on the south elevation may read as piazza infill and should be restudied. Given the level of restudy required, we ask that this proposal be deferred. Thank you.
Frankie, could you give us staff comments?
Yes, ma'am. Staff had some observations first. The previous structure, which was demolished, while taller than the front, was constructed prior to BAR purview. The proposed structure is not subordinate to the historic, but it is pushed to the rear. While pushed to the rear of lot, it could be pushed further back to the rear setback. As far as the context there, we have approved some structures that are slightly taller in the rear, but not substantially taller than the front structures. I think there was a Andrew Gould project a few years ago where he also had a one-story building in the front and had slightly taller at the rear and pushed it to the rear, completely to the rear of the lot. Historic structure appears to be dwarfed in height, scale, and mass because the existing structure is only one story. Staff would be supportive of its height, scale, and mass if pushed to the rear of the lot. And that is our condition for approval. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with board and staff conditions and a preliminary and final review of staff. By staff.
Thank you, Francie. Would the applicant like to respond to any of the comments?
Thank everybody for the comments. Pushing the building back to the setback line is not a problem. Frankly, we can definitely do that. We can try to restudy as we go through, see if there's a way to bring that mass down a little bit. This is a tough site, and I understand that. And partly because every other house on the strip or every other property on the strip Rutledge has a two-story building in the back, has a detached two-story building on the back side. And even though this one is a little bit taller than the primary structure up front, the initial historic structure up front, there's now a new community being developed along Rutledge Street right now. And that includes two-story structures on the back. So we can do what we can to get that height, scale, and mass down a little bit. But I do think that the new vernacular along Rutledge right there has two-story houses on the backside of it. And there is further precedent. I was here, I think, a year and a half ago on F Street, where a similar thing. There's a lot of two-story buildings behind single-story houses on F Street that are getting approved because of other precedents. Thank you.
Patrick, what are your floor to ceiling heights?
What's that?
Your floor to ceiling.
They are tall, it's 10 foot and 8 foot.
That concludes public comment. We'll move to board discussion.
I agree with Frankie, the farther back it could be pushed, the better. I'm still not wrapping my head around why this site works to push them to the back, but the previous one did not. So, but I'm not a civil engineer. No, the building is not subordinate to the main house, but the main house is a one-story. In order to get the amount of square footage that somebody might want. You'd have to make this a very large one-story house. This house, it's substantially smaller than what the 4 other sites that have been developed prior to the board being up there. And it'll be pushed to the rear side. So I think that kind of mitigates the height scale mass issue with the building up front. I think this building being in the back, it relates more to its side neighbors and rear neighbor, because it's closer to those than it is to the front ones. There seems like there's room to carve out, to lower things down another foot, take your first floor ceilings to 9 feet instead of 10. Architecturally, the only detail issue that I see is I think the porch columns look underscaled. They need to be beefed up. And then I see that a gravel drive and parking is proposed, so I would like to see some sort of hard edge for that material to contain it, be it a brick edging or whatever.
I think it's too tall. I agree with staff. I don't think it's reasonable to say you possibly in this neighborhood in that spot that you are limited to a one-story building in the back. I think that's not reasonable and just approved a few houses down, one that was 2 stories, but admittedly had a 2-story front and therefore was not taller than the existing building in front. And I think if you push this building back, reduce the height some, and pushed it all the way to the setback, that it would be more palatable. The architectural direction, I think is right. I agree with you. The porch columns probably need to be beefed up. I think the material palette is what it is. But there, I don't think it's okay. I think it could be. This is just conceptual, but I think the building could be improved with some detailing and the bay on the front. I think it's fine to have a bay on the front. That one, I think, could improve the front presence of that building. Not much of which you will see, I think, on the street, but with some better detailing on the bay, perhaps. But as far as height scale and general architectural direction, okay, height scale and mass, I think it needs to come down some, still be a 2-story building, come down as far back as possible.
How do y'all feel about the board mat comment about that?
I don't have any issues with it.
Yep. I don't know.
It doesn't bother me.
I mean,
You guys.
it doesn't bother me as again, I think this is conceptual. This is a.
I think since it's a new building and that's Gordon Batten is already on that kind of profile infill part.
Yeah.
Sort of distinguishes that. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. It does, it probably, I would say it reads inappropriate like an infill porch, but nobody's gonna ever think this is a historic building without an infill porch, so I just don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
I know sometimes that's a problem, and I think visually sometimes it is a problem. I don't think that's a problem with this building.
I don't think
And
you're
so
right.
the board and bat is fine.
I think it would have been better if those bands had continued from the porch or something was a little bit more integral there.
Right. It has just, exception from general architectural direction. I think it's okay. But I do think it needs to come down a little in height and get pushed back, and I will reiterate that because inappropriate structures were built before there was purview. I do not think that's a reason to continue an inappropriate concept. And so, but I do think that it's reasonable to allow an appropriate two-story building because this lot is so deep. We've done that before.
Yeah.
And I think that's appropriate.
How much do you think it needs to come down?
I think it needs to go back as far as it can.
I mean, come down.
Oh, come down.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it would, I think you could get, I think with some judicial tweaking, you could get a foot or more out of it.
Yeah, I think you could get a foot just by taking the ground floor down to 9-foot ceilings.
You could.
Yeah. Which is still a generous. It's still an appropriate ceiling height.
Yes, yeah, I think it's an appropriate ceiling height.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion for. No, I'm not.
I'll make a motion for conceptual approval with pushing the house further back on the lot and reducing the overall height. And preliminary and final by staff. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that?
You want me to need any of the board comments?
But board, those would be board conditions.
With board conditions.
Those may be staff.
For staff conditions.
Yeah, that was staff's condition, push it back, yeah.
Less staff option.
Yeah.
Push it back. And staff's condition, push it back as far as possible. And a board condition to reduce the height.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Daryl, seconded by Bill. We'll put the motion to a vote. Comer.
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes 4-0.
Is that what? Period.
Yes.
Staff.
Thank you very much.
The next item,
I'm ready.
next item is B12, 45 Fifth Street.
45 Fifth Street is in Charleston Village, Florida. It is a category 3, circa 1890 in the Old Historic District, requesting conceptual approval for garage and additional dwelling. This is the property's location on Fifth Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hey, I'm Robbie Marty, and I am representing the owners of this project. And so we were here a few weeks ago. I don't know which direction I'm supposed to go. Is that correct?
Other way.
Other way. And so the board and staff had sort of 3 primary comments about this project. One of them, I'm just going to go all the way to this is the existing single family. So the comments that the board and staff had were for a restudy of material palette, that the proposed roof previously was complicated and we needed to unify the fenestration. So what we did, the top drawings are the previous and the bottom are the proposed. This is a view essentially almost all the way down the driveway of the southeast corner. So we are now proposing to use the lap siding that matches the addition that was done a couple of years ago. And this is the side view of the south. Then we changed the roof design to all gable roof. And then the third thing that I did was I restudied, because we changed the material palette to a single kind of material, it also allowed me to be able to do the same detail on all of the windows, which I think helps unify the windows and was also just
able to unify the windows and scale and location. One of the other sort of subsidiary benefits of this change is that because we are doing a gable all the way through, I was able to lower the eave height from the previous, because in the previous application with the flat roof needed to be tucked under the edge of the eave of the gable, which brought the entire thing up. So getting rid of the flat roof allowed me to bring the eave heights down. So although the gable roof is slightly larger in order to encompass the entire building, the eave height is about a foot lower, and the total roof height is only 28 feet, which is just a foot higher than what we had proposed before. And you can kind of see, looking at this elevation across, the whole thing is still smaller than the existing building. And that is really all. I think I've got one more. Does anybody have questions?
Or have any questions?
No.
Is there any public comment?
Lynn Moore, Preservation Society of Charleston. While the PSC appreciates that the penetration and materiality has been made more cohesive, we still feel that the proposed roof form and massing is complicated and would benefit from. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Frankie, would you give your recommendations?
Staff had observations, the material palette and massing have been restudied, and the fenestration has been simplified. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with any board conditions and preliminary and final review by staff.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to any of the comments?
Just in order to accomplish the program, as we discussed in the previous, the shape of the building kind of calls for that, just because of the garage, the apartment above, and then the screened porch and workshop on the back. And we feel like it's a small building, and now with the materials and the simplified roof, it is more simple. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment and application portion. And we will move into board discussion.
I think it's substantially better.
Yeah, I do too.
Simplified, and it's the lower heat height really have diminished the mass, even the apparent mass even further. The roof does still have some complexity, but that's largely driven by the footprint shape. So
I agree. You want to make a motion?
Would make a motion for conceptual approval with final review by staff. So,
is there a second?
I second it.
We have a motion on the floor by Fillmore, seconded by Daryl. Let's put it to a vote. Fillmore?
In favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
And the chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes 4-0.
Michelle. Thank you.
Next item is agenda item B13 for Licorice Street.
4 Licorice Street is in Charlestown, Council District 8. It is a category 3, circa 1777 in the Old Historic District. Requesting conceptual approval for modifications to third floor addition. This is the property's location on Route. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, I'm Glenn Keys. We were proposing a modest addition to a building that was built in 2002. The addition used to be to the north. Was added in 2002 to this 1770s main house. Go through all Sanborn, but essentially what we're trying to do is this 3-story addition stuff sets back at the 3rd floor. Right? We would like to fill that space out. This is a 33 square foot addition, but it allows that the bathroom there to have a proper kind of space, and we would ask for a small addition for that. And we'd like to create some doors on the. This is the addition right here. So it's a 3x11 and matches up with what's below it. First and second, stacking and more on top. These items would match. And the 3rd floor, there is a roof deck. We're just going to propose a planter there just to fill that space. And neighbors are all fine with this. And all of them have.
Here.
Okay.
Go other way.
And we're proposing to, this is just an open masonry opening now. We're proposing to put some doors on that, fill that space. And that's really the extent of the project. So it's these doors and then this addition. Pressing conceptual approval.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Is there any public comment?
Sorry.
Capability Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF holds an easement on the property at 4 Legree Street. The applicants have been in communication with us and their requests are in compliance with their easement requirements. We recommend approval of this request. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Frankie, would you like to share the recommendations?
Staff just had some observations. Proposed alteration is highly visible due to the corner location of the structure. But staff appreciate the very thorough staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with a preliminary and final review by staff permit. And I just wanted to make a note, I messed up on the agenda. On the agenda, it said it is not rated. It is a category 3. It's labeled in our inventory as 30 Lamble, not 4 Legree. So that was an error on my part. I apologize. That's all staff.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to any of the comments?
Thank you.
We'll move into board discussion.
I'm comfortable with it.
Me too.
I'd like to make a motion for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff.
Is there a
Second.
There's a motion by Bill with a second by Daryl. Put it to a vote.
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
and the chair votes with the majority. The motion passes 4-0. The next item is 1110 King Street. Item B14.
1110 King Street is in East Central, Council District 4. It is category 3, circa 1935 in the historic corridor district. They're requesting after the fact approval for a 2nd story addition. This is the property's location on King Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, my name is Rick Rockwell, my wife and I own Rockwell Construction. We're here to request approval for second story addition located at 1110 property zone GB. We are proposing a second story addition, rear porch to the existing 1935 4 square style home. The addition will not exceed the existing lot coverage or the existing footprint, 29%. It will include approximately 212 square feet heated space, 38 square feet of unheated space. The design is consistent with the home's original character, matching existing materials, windows, door types, trim, overall aesthetic to maintain the integrity of the 1930s American 4 square style, known for its cube form, wide front porch, and two-story configuration. We received neighborhood support, gone to all the neighbors and talked to them about this, showed everybody, had a discussion with the Preservation Society about being on the tour of site visits and invited them to come and walk through the interior and exterior. Earlier miscommunications have been resolved and halted construction once we discovered that we had zone, we're working on zoning approval, but needed BAR. I will say that we looked up and it's listed as a category 4 and the documents that we looked at, minor note, but we discussed with the Preservation Society the changing some of the articulation details on the addition in order to make it subordinate. Our roof pitch is right at 412, as was common with those houses. So this asphalt shingle, that's what was there before. But getting below 412 kind of compromises the performance of a roof like that. My ceilings in that space, just extending that out are at 8 foot, which is what's in the original house, making it challenging to drop it down. The eaves are deep, as is the eaves of the original house. I think are great houses in the lower country. Protects the body of the house, but if there was a modification to those details that we needed to do to continue with it, of course, do so.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Rick, on the south elevation, existing shows a ocular, I think, window. Little 6-faceted round window, and the proposed shows a square window there. Was that window?
None of the windows that are in there now are original. They've all been swapped out with vinyl windows for the past 20 years. And
even the little ocular,
they're all a vinyl. And so we've already gotten our approval to replace those with Marlin Historic Series True Divided Light wooden windows. So I'd say deciding from the addition that's there that we were rebuilding already was the 1-story addition that had a gable and kind of a shed pitched off of it on the south side. So we were already rebuilding that and putting a nice true gable on it to go south to north, with one roof. It had been cobbled together in the 50s. That addition that was there that we inherited. But I've kept everything that I can keep that's historic. I've kept the brick piers and assisted them with block piers around them. I've kept, a lot of that siding is that German shiplap, so a lot of that does survive the test of time. I've kept all of that, interior fireplaces, it's just, in the fifties, they added on to that first story, and it does give a lot of relief in that, when you're adding bathrooms and a more reasonable kitchen. So then when I rebuilt the first floor, the client asked if we could repeat that on the second. So, you know, and it's just one room, but it does give relief to that, original 4 square configuration, just a little bit, but until we didn't put, you know, we weren't didn't put any windows on it, on the south side facing the neighbor, 0 lot line right there, and just repeated the fenestration on the other facades.
Thanks.
But sadly, none of the original windows survive.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Utility Historic Charleston Foundation, as already stated tonight, HCF does not support after the fact approval. Although HCF is not opposed to a rear second story addition, we do have a few comments regarding the design. We would request that the corner board and historic roof line be retained. Additionally, we would prefer that the rear addition be slightly narrowed or pinched in to remain visually subordinate to the historic structure. Yeah.
Memory and Humor Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciated the opportunity to visit the site this week at the invitation of the project team. After the fact requests are always unfortunate, and based on our observations, the scope of unapproved work includes the removal of existing material and alterations to the historic form of this building, all of which is subject to BAR purview in the historic corridor district. We are concerned that this request was not originally advertised properly and that the board didn't have the benefit of a site visit. However, we thank the applicant for acknowledging the breach in process and for the team's willingness to rectify this violation. We are glad that the historic material removed has largely been retained on site, and we ask that the board ensure all is reincorporated moving forward. The vertical addition that has already been constructed is not subordinate to the historic building, and the roof should be lowered so that the evolution of this building can be clearly read. We ask the board to deny after the fact approval of the existing addition and require that drawings be provided to show the roof structure lowered, salvage siding reincorporated, and corner boards clearly delineating the addition. Thank you.
Only historic materials that were removed were in the rebuilding of the first story addition, which is existing from 1955 and is all on site. There was no removal of material related to the second story. The material that were there are still there. I'm insistent on that. I had nothing to do with the advertising of this. We spoke many times with BAR staff about whether or not we should have been on y'all's tour. I would have loved to have had you. Still would, but and you know, I can lower the roof, of course, but it's an 8-foot ceiling, and these are modest vernacular houses. They're not grand or classically proportioned. They're vernacular structures for working people, and it's not. This is 212 square foot addition. That's exactly what was on the first floor. Staff, and but I did not remove any historic material, nor have I ever on any job in 30 years. That's not my nature, and anybody that's worked with me knows that. But
Can I stop you for just a second and let staff
Sure.
do their comments, and then you can.
In case you want to respond to mine as well.
In case you want to respond to theirs.
And I will make some clarifications before going through the staff comments. It was advertised incorrectly by staff. We missed that it was after the fact. But site visits are not required for after the fact. They are only required for demo, and then staff will typically add a site visit for something that we think would be beneficial for the board to see visibility wise. The reason that the board was taken on a site visit for after the fact this morning is because it was demolition. And we were hoping there was some existing material still on site. So just as a clarification. Staff has some observations. The addition was constructed without BAR approval. The proposed windows match the existing structure. It does retain corner board. The oculus window is character defining and the shape should be retained. And you are correct, I checked it as a category 4, so I've added that into my comments. As we wrote these comments prior to realizing that it was after the fact, I'll say that what these conditions were. If it had been submitted prior to the work being done, these were what our conditions were going to be. Retain the oculus window form, differentiate windows from the existing structure, and tuck the roof of the addition under the existing eave. So our recommendation would be denial of after the fact addition, but that we have these conditions if you want to make an approval with any condition. But as we don't ever recommend approval after the fact. Now, if you want to, if you have any additional response, you're welcome to respond to my comments also.
That concludes the public comment.
So this is
Or discussion.
after, obviously it's after the fact.
Yes, it's partly.
Do we know the original one-story addition? Was it demolished or was it? I'll ask Rick that. Was it demolished or was it added on to, Rick?
The original one-story addition is still there. I still have them do it.
No, so you've just extended it up a story.
It's a main footprint.
Okay.
It's a 212.
It's a pretty good photo of it. On the bottom left.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Thanks. Could not approve the after the fact, and I think that the two it's unfortunate that the original addition is as wide as the house, but since it is, then I think corner boards need to be called out and the roof needs to sit under the roof of the existing structure.
Yeah, I agree. That's sort of a standard for us when you're doing an addition on the back of a house, you drop that roof evenly. The other one, so. I agree with keeping or reintroducing corner boards for separation. Pinching it in, that's not an option because the first floor was existing. I think other ways to differentiate this as being an addition would be to, with those corner boards, switch to a different profile of siding. I know that the idea was maybe to reuse that German siding, but I think changing siding profiles would go a long way to differentiate this as an addition. Also, maybe change up the window light cuts for the addition as well would help. I think the rear elevations is a little messy with the second floor porch, for example, coming out, kind of straddling halfway in the body of the building, halfway out. I think either that needs to go away or just square off the area below it. But I think something needs to happen with the design on that portion there. And one of the support brackets underneath that porch is sort of crashing into the window trim below. The south side where there are well, maybe 5 different window types on that, or 4 on that elevation, so any window that goes into if any window that's introduced into the addition or that replaces that oculus window, which I understand is vinyl, should pick one of those other windows, instead of introducing yet more window types on the elevation. But that's it for me.
I've got nothing to add. You covered it well.
So, and
I think we do need to see its back, so I would do a conceptual approval, taking into account.
this would be a denial of after. the
Right,
fact
so I guess
and a requirement for.
would we do a dual motion on this, Frankie, or?
I think the cleaner way to do it would be to ask or to do a denial of after the fact and then as a condition required to come back. Require the drawings to come back with any other conditions you have.
Okay.
I believe would be the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so denial of after the fact approval, with the condition that the applicant return to the board addressing the comments by staff and board discussion.
Do we have a second?
A second.
There's a motion on the floor from Bill, seconded by Daryl. We'll put it to a bit. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
You in favor?
Daryl,
You in favor?
and the chair votes with the board. And the motion passes 4-0.
Oh, and just to reiterate, Mr. Rockwell did reach out to staff, actually all of us. And at the time, it was this week, so I was not able to add a site visit for you guys because I legally, it didn't match our timeline. But as it wasn't required, I didn't think it was that big a deal.
I mean, I wrote on the site.
I just wanted to make sure I had covered all the applicable points.
All right. We will move to item B15, 72 Smith Street.
All right, 72 Smith Street is in Charleston Village, Council District 8, it is category 3, circa 1887 in the old historic district, requesting appeal of staff condition to change window pattern. This is the property's location on Smith Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, I'm Jenny Liberanis of Liberanis Architects, presenting for Gail Wilkinson's the homeowner. We are here today because in the process of working through getting the building permit, we got a notice that it had been denied because we'd like to put 2 windows over 1 window in the rear of the addition. So we are here to ask for y'all to reconsider that condition that was put on the project. It's always been part of the design. Let me get to the slide that shows. So you can see the south elevation there. We have a pair of bathrooms for their teenage girls over a single room, and we don't use 2 windows. It's always been part of the proposed design. We have had, this is our 4th meeting, we had letters of support from the neighbors initially when we brought this in front of y'all. We think it's a good design solution. It's used all over Charleston. It's used on the front of famous buildings. This is a vernacular single house, and part of the charm of Charleston's vernacular architecture is that things are not always 100% perfect, and you come up with creative ways of making accommodations for things. Gail and I, the owner, met with city staff. They said that this condition was made by one particular member of the staff, but that they did not have the authority to reverse it, which is why we're here asking for y'all's consideration. And so they recommended we make this application, and they said that they would not oppose our appeal today. We were surprised to see the condition as part of the motion in the end, because it had come up in an earlier BAR meeting. And the only comment that had been made was that it didn't bother the person making the comment. The owners have accommodated a number of requests made by city staff, over the course of the year that they've been working to get these approvals. This one feels arbitrary to us, and that it's not going to improve the design to accommodate it. So we're asking for y'all's consideration to remove the condition. And I know y'all have been all over the city too. So you've seen paired windows over single windows. It happens all over the place. I'm just going to show you a few examples for the sake of discussion. This is the existing building that we're adding the double windows to. You see it's on this building in the dormer, and there are ganged windows on the second story. It's very common to see different patterns of windows, even on famous buildings like the Pink House. And you see paired windows below single windows. This one's recently been given permission for something, so that's been in front of y'all not too recently. This is on the same street as the Wilkinson's home. One on Church Street, one on King Street, I think, South King, another on Church. I like this picture too, because there was a question of what we were going to do about the shutters, and this is what we plan to do with the shutters. You bifold one on the outside, and they still are functioning and able to protect the windows. There below on Queen, again on Queen, and that's it.
Can you go back to your elevation where it shows it and leave it there?
Frankie, when this came to us before, did it have the windows up top?
Yes.
Was there a board condition that they become a single window, or? Okay.
It was an adopted staff condition.
Gotcha.
So that was a board condition that it becomes single.
Yeah. Since we adopted this. Yeah.
It was, may I add it, we were also the last applicant in that meeting.
What's the little room on the first floor directly below? What is that room? And would it be possible to do a pair of windows in it?
It would look like a mistake if we put two on the first floor. It's a closet.
Okay.
And
it would prevent us from having hanging clothes.
Okay, I gotcha.
And what if the pair on the second floor was simply two singles and just didn't allow?
Two bathrooms.
And no, I see that.
So
It's two bathrooms with, I was asking, honestly, couldn't the windows simply be separated? Is that
There's a mullion between them.
I'm sorry, could they be individual, not ganged? Is it just that the shutters would conflict? That was the,
Seems like that would be another option, but we prefer to just nothing.
it's actually a little trickier detailing with the way it's done right now, but that's why I was asking.
Frankie, you don't have any photos, do you? Or I don't see any photos in here.
Building location and visibility,
Yeah, visibility from the street.
right?
I do not have any. No.
People.
You can see it from the street. It's not prominent, but it is visible through the driveway. But also the one in the dormer is visible from the street.
Does the board have any more questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
Is there any public comment? Staff comments?
So I've got observations only. The project was approved by the board November 14th last year. The motion was a conceptual approval with staff conditions and a final review by staff. And the staff condition was that the center windows should match either with paired windows or single window on both floors. The permit was denied by staff for not meeting that condition. Since the comment was adopted by the board, staff cannot override. Staff does not have a recommendation because this is an appeal of a staff decision, so we cannot give a recommendation.
It'll be visible, but I mean, it's a fair distance back.
Yeah, so.
I mean, in the perfect world, I think, I mean, that's got a very strong rhythm to that facade with the windows, but on the flip side, it's visible, but I don't think I think it's so far back, it's not that visible, that noticeable. Right.
In the past, we've been pretty strict on. We've denied others recently that arranged windows for floor plans.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Have you guys moved to board discussion?
Sorry,
We
yeah.
followed, thank you.
But we didn't give her a chance to respond.
That was
Thank
what
you.
Rachel was pointing at.
Would the applicant like to respond to the comments by staff?
Sorry, I started answering questions.
Okay, well now move to board discussion. Board discussion.
I mean, the double, the shot.
From my perspective, it's, it's unattractive.
It wasn't.
Okay, now, is it? I think it is visible up the driveway. Google Earth says you could probably see it.
Yeah.
It's pretty far back. I mean, I'd obviously rather the four ganged windows together on the porch enclosure, whenever that was done, are pretty unattractive as well.
Yeah.
But that I don't think that's a reason to repeat a sort of unpleasant condition. But it's not,
I agree, and it's not built yet.
Yes.
Not like we're dealing with an existing condition.
Just based on
I think
precedents, I agree. Because just since I've been on the board. If it were on the back of the house, we wouldn't probably be having the conversation.
it wouldn't be visible from.
Yeah.
It's visible, it's clearly
Clearly visible.
I mean, it's
I mean, it's no question.
ways back, but it's clear. It's clearly visible.
Yeah. Google Earth, there's visible.
Somebody want to make a
And,
motion?
and I see the floor plan,
And I think we had the same discussion at the last time, or that kind of single brick window. And I'm gonna make a motion for denial of appeal.
There's a motion on the floor for the denial. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And the motion to a vote, Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl.
In favor.
The chair votes with the majority and the motion passes 4-0. So make a motion to adjourn. Would anyone like to make?
Motion to adjourn.